everybody. Reporting to you again from the Glamour City, Hollywood.
Creators are kind of starting to look at themselves as businesses. They're not just content creators, they're actual businesses and brands. And businesses and brands really succeed when they control their business. And that dynamic is what's very interesting to see as creators get smarter and smarter and more sophisticated.
If you love listening to this show, please consider giving a rating and a review on Amazon Alexa or wherever you listen. We want to continue bringing you this amazing content, and part of our ability to do that means that we need a big audience. Now, it may not seem like much, but rating and reviewing the show will help more people find us, just like how you found this show. Simply on any podcast platform, search for a show, scroll down to the bottom, and push 5 stars. It's that easy. Thanks for supporting the show. Today, I'm joined by Ahad Khan, CEO of Kajabi. Welcome to the show today.
Thanks so much for having me, Scott. I appreciate it.
So broadly speaking, when we say the creator economy, that can mean a lot of different things, but how do you define it?
Well, I do think it means a lot of things. So the creator economy, the way we define it is that Kajabi is a platform that enables creators to make a living that they control around their knowledge, experience, and expertise. And what we mean by that is that they're able to take things they've learned in life or things they learned in school or through training or whatever it may be, and create a business around that via online courses, community products, coaching, ways really for them to disseminate their knowledge, experience, and expertise to the masses using digital content and digital goods. And so we also enable the platform to build that business. So we have website building, a CRM, analytics, payments, but essentially what we are is a one-stop shop creator commerce platform within the broader creator economy, which includes things like that are happening on like YouTube and TikTok and all these things. But we play within really the knowledge, experience, and expertise sub-vertical of the broader creator economy. And we've been doing that since 2010.
Okay. Now, there are things like masterclasses and other types of platforms that are doing something along what you guys are doing, but maybe with a more specific niche focus. Can you talk about how you guys differ from some of your competitors? And it sounds like you guys are providing, like I said, that kind of one-stop shop, especially for those that are maybe not so tech heavy.
Yeah.
Just need a little bit hand-holding. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So we actually think about ourselves as the most creator-centric company out there. So when you talk about a masterclass or other people like that, what ends up happening is that in order to take a masterclass class, you go to masterclass.com and you kind of do a search for it. So the brand there is actually masterclass, and then it's I'm going to learn how to write a screenplay and take a class with Aaron Sorkin, for example, right? For us, it is you actually are going straight to the creators, frankly, ecosystem, their world. So you're going to their website that's branded in their brand with their name. They're the ones who are in the driver's seat in terms of the user experience, the pricing and packaging, the revenue they develop. So you think about it like we are essentially the platform behind the creator that is enabling them to build their brand, their business online. So a lot of the times you go to the Kajabi site, you'll have no idea that it's a Kajabi site. It'll just be, I'm going to Honeyflow, which teaches people how to become beekeepers, right? And it's a beautiful website. They have all these great courses. They have a community of all these things that happen there. And it's all powered by Kajabi. But at the end of the day, for that creator, it's their brand first. It's their pricing and packaging first. It's their user experience first. And it helps them develop a brand around themselves. Where if you're doing it on a platform like you use Masterclass, for example, the brand there is very different. And I'll go even further here, which is we're much more interested in kind of the middle class of the creator economy. So the average creator on Kajabi makes about $40,000 a year. Right? If you think about incomes in the US, that's just south of the median income in the US. And so what we're really in is like empowering the middle class of the creator economy to build sustainable businesses with their brand first that they control, which is slightly different than a lot of other people who are within our ecosystem. It's just a general approach is different here. Our revenue model is different too. So you pay us a SaaS fee as a platform. You can make $1 on Kajabi. You can make $1 million on Kajabi. You keep all of that. But if you build on other platforms and you're a creator, you're giving up anywhere from 10 to 30 to 40% of your revenue to that platform to enable that kind of commerce to happen. So it's a very different revenue approach and business model approach that we have as opposed to some of the other competitors out there as well.
All right. So, I mean, there's a lot of questions I have, but let's start with the fact that if the creator is somewhat tech savvy, they should be able to get any access to most of the main common CMS systems and plugins and pretty much get all the CRM component, behind the firewall, login, authentication, maybe even payments and so forth. So they could pretty much do all of this on their own or using other types of existing services, correct?
Yeah, for sure. We have a lot of people who actually do it, but what ends up happening is that over time, if you have a really fragmented software base, there's an administrative burden of managing that business over time, which takes away time for you to actually build content and build ways for you to monetize. There's a financial burden as well, which is each one of those tools has a different SaaS fee that they're charging you or a different way they make money off of you, which actually ends up being quite expensive over time as you're kind of pulling together a motley crew of software vendors. And the last piece is that the different parts of that business stack actually don't play very well together. So you end up having like ad hoc connections between X and Y and Z to make it all play well together. But the thing about Kajabi is we actually have people who are not that tech savvy, but also people who are extremely tech savvy. And what they all realize is at the end of the day, having it all under one hood and having it play very well with each other, which reduces the administrative burden, gives you more time to build your content. And if you have more time to build your content and build your business, you have more opportunities to monetize and make money. And so that's the trade-off that even extremely tech savvy people make as they scale into this way of making a living.
All right. Let's take a step back. You've been in the business for some time and you've seen the trends over time as well. How has the content creator economy changed in the last, let's say, 10 years or so? And what are the kinds of content that people are actually looking for, willing to pay for?
Yeah. What we've seen in the last 10 years, but particularly the last 5 years, is the growth of the personal brand, right? And so this is why we continue to be very bullish for the future of the way our business is oriented. Again, we sit behind the creator. As more content is being generated because of the ease of content generation now with AI and all these things, the brand of the individual starts mattering more and more. And the relationship that brand has with their audience or that creator has with their audience is more paramount than ever, right? So if you step back a little bit, you think about audience ownership. One of the things that we enable as a platform is direct to audience interaction, right? So when you're a creator on Kajabi, you have a couple of ways to interact directly with your customers. One can be an email list. So they sign up for email, so they're on a distribution list that enables you to interact directly with your customers. The other one is we have a community product that enables a creator to create a community around what they're teaching or what their content they're putting out into the world and creates more surface area for you to interact directly with your customers who are most likely to be interested in the services you're providing, ergo are also most likely to purchase the content or the work you're putting out into the world. And so what we've seen with social media platforms a lot of the time is you'll get shadow banned, you get explicitly kicked off, or you're working on a YouTube or a TikTok or a LinkedIn and you violate something that you don't even know about because there's not transparency there. But all of a sudden, the place where you're building your business can be shut off overnight. And that risk has played out across different areas in the creator economy so much over the last 5 to 10 years that people now are like, well, I got to develop a direct relationship with my audience that's not dependent on intermediary like a social media platform. And so that concept of direct to creator monetization or direct to creator relationship is proliferating quite a bit as brands start mattering much more within the creator economy. And so we think we're on the right side of that. And it's been interesting to see it happen over the last couple of years. And I think particularly in the last 2 years, we've seen a pretty big acceleration of that dynamic.
All right. Let's, again, I'm going to digress a little bit and maybe talking about YouTube for a second. For those that's been on YouTube for, let's say, more than 10 years, they've seen their compensation, monetization really change pretty drastically. And
Dramatically, yeah.
some people have actually left, others have started to diversify and create, additional channels, for instance, as part of diversification. But to your point, it starts to become somewhat precarious. And then, of course, when you factor into account Instagram and TikTok, there's a lot of things that you don't have control over at some
Yeah.
point. So talk to us about, because at the end of the day, SaaS and tools and capabilities are great, but really what matters is going to be marketing. So how should content creators be thinking about marketing and having those direct channels?
Yeah. The moniker we use internally a lot is like social media platform is a great place to build an audience. It's a bad place to build a business, right? And you alluded to a couple of those dynamics, which is it's kind of like building a house on sand. It can shift underneath you and you build this big structure, and all of a sudden, if it shifts underneath you, you lose control of it and it can go away. And so our most prolific and frankly sophisticated creators are ones who understand marketing, understand the power of an audience, right? So know how to utilize social media platforms where people gather to find their audience in those ecosystems and build content for it. This 70% or 60% of our creators have an active YouTube channel. So this isn't an or conversation, it's an and. But the real thinking is if I have a YouTube channel or a TikTok channel, how do I migrate those customers over from a platform where there's an intermediary between me and them into a relationship where I directly interact with them. And so that I think is alluding to the idea of these places are a great place to build audiences, but when you want to monetize, when you want to build a direct relationship, you want to get their email address. You want to get their phone number. You want them to download your mobile app. You want to build that direct relationship. So in case something happens on a YouTube or a TikTok or an Instagram that's out of your control, you still have the ability to build to make a living and to build a sustainable business that you control. And we just think that's, as you said, that concept over the last 10 years, I continue to think over the last 3 to 4 years has become much more well known within the creator economy. And we believe we're on the right side of that dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned before that there are other platforms where they charge on a certain percentage of, let's say, volume, revenue, whatnot. But it's there for a reason, right? I mean, some of those platforms are doing some massive amount of advertising and it's drawing traffic to that platform, and then you just happen to be one of those brands on it.
Well,
And the reality is you get a lot more, viewership as a result of it. So there's value in it. In the case of Kajabi, again, without the content creators having to, aside from the social media aspects, well, actually, even in social media, let's say Facebook, for instance, without actually advertising, it's very difficult to get any type of impressions, let alone engagement. So at some point, in order for you to be able to actually enlarge your audience, you have to spend ad dollars. Is that not correct? And how does Kajabi play into that?
yeah. So, our mission is to help ambitious creators become successful entrepreneurs. And so we use the word ambition pretty explicitly. So, just step back and on your question, there are exchanges that are in our ecosystem as well. What ends up happening is if you're a creator, you're a course creator, you're building something to sell, you upload your content into a marketplace, and then demand is driven by that platform, and all of a sudden you get a cut of revenue, right? But what ends up happening inevitably over time is that your cut of revenue will go down and down because the platform has to generate revenue over time in itself. So without using names, you think about platforms that have 30 split between the creator and the platform. That is inverted the other way now. It's a 70-30 split to the platform. And so that's the inevitable dynamic around the economic model that I think it can be helpful in the early stages. But if you're an ambitious entrepreneur and you're interested in really building a business, Kajabi is the right place for you. You do have to understand marketing and audience building and demand gen. And it's not for everybody. So we also don't say that everybody should be on Kajabi from day zero, but the ones who are really trying to build a sustainable living and who are the ambitious creators, we think that they're the ones who understand owning audience ownership is a big deal. Understanding how to distribute your product, not just build a product, is a big deal. And the platform that enables you to do that is Kajabi, because we have all your products under one roof. We have a CRM system that enables you to interact with your customers whenever you want to. We have a branded mobile app that enables you to unlock the mobile ecosystem as surface area for you to interact with your customers, both to deliver content, but also communicate via push notifications and just direct messaging. And so when you think about the core to people who are the ambitious creators who really want to do this and own the revenue around it too. So they're not paying out 70% of their revenue. There's nobody else who has this approach the way we have it. And so that's why we're very bullish on the way the ecosystem is unfurling, which is creators are kind of starting to look at themselves as businesses. They're not just content creators, they're actual businesses and brands. And businesses and brands really succeed when they control their business. And that dynamic is what's very interesting to see as creators get smarter and smarter and more sophisticated.
Now, one of the things that I think maybe perhaps keep people on the sideline is the fact that, people may have this perception that they need a very large following before they can really monetize that. But one of the comments that you make on your website is that you only need about 350 customers.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
I mean, it just depends on your business, right? So, we have a guy on our platform. Let's take the high-end case. We have a guy on our platform, a guy named Ali Abdal, who I think has 5 million followers. He's a big productivity guru on YouTube. 5 million followers on YouTube. Last February, launched a course on Kajabi, has made $4 million since then, right? So you have these people who are big creators on YouTube. We also have people who are we have a woman who teaches people how to pass a trucking exam. She doesn't have a social media following at all. If anything, what she is she has such great content and such awareness within her niche vertical that anybody who's interested in that, in partaking on that journey of becoming a truck driver, finds out about her via word of mouth or a website, but she doesn't really have a big social following. But what she knows is her audience. She knows how to get to them. And she knows how to monetize them. And she makes 7 figures on the platform at the same time. So the thing about entrepreneurship that I always talk to people about is like, there's many ways to be an entrepreneur. There's no one way. There's I'm a big YouTuber and I'm able to build a big business, but there's also people who are online. And what being online enables you to do is have the world be your market. And as long as you know how to get to your market and spread your product, you don't need to have big social media following. I don't think she has a presence at all because she doesn't need it in order to build a really successful business.
So this is a good example where maybe you could talk about 3 or more, let's say, personas or case studies. Somebody that's kind of like what you're just saying, that's just a real domain expert, right?
Yeah.
May not necessarily have a huge social media presence. Whereas maybe there's another one, like the one that you mentioned before, that has a huge social media presence and is looking to then convert into some monetization, and then something in between. And again, it just gives a little bit more contextualized understanding for listeners in terms of, how does your platform really work for different types of content creators?
Yeah, so I have a great example of we call them heroes or Kajabi heroes. We have a hero in Tennessee, I believe. She historically, I think she has 3 or 4 kids, and she was a working mom, and she was trying to figure out ways to continue to be at home, but also build a business because she's an ambitious creator, right? And historically, she had kind of a services business, which if you're in the area of her town, I'm not sure if it's Memphis or Knoxville or where in Tennessee it was, but if you're in some kind of radius of her home, she'd come to your house and she'd help you become a gardener fundamentally. So she provides services of like, hey, these are the flowers you need. This is the kind of soil you want. These are things you have to do, but it was a services business. In a services business, it's very manual and you only get paid when you're working, right? Given that she had a family life and she wanted to build a different business kind of a different way, she took that entire business and moved it online. And so what she ended up doing is teaching people how to become gardeners. But her market now wasn't the 30-mile radius around her home. It was the entire internet. And so the concept there for me, which was illuminating in terms of how entrepreneurship can work, is like you can start with a services business, learn best practices. If you're getting the same questions from your customers again and again and again, build a scalable way to answer those questions, which can be courses or can be emails or ways like that. And then turn your content, which can be sometimes physical, into digital goods and let that proliferate on the internet where there's going to be a lot more demand for your services. So now she has a 7-figure business. She has a social media following. It's not like Ali Abdal, who has 5 million. She has a good social media following, but that's not the only way that she builds her business. And what we're trying to articulate is in the world of digital commerce, and I think maybe this is kind of to your question earlier about the creator economy, everybody thinks about YouTube. Everybody thinks about TikTok. Everybody thinks about Instagram or Facebook to some degree. But in the creator economy, particularly in the middle class, there's just so many different ways to build a business. You can have a services business plus a digital business. You can have just a digital business. You can do synchronous business, which is like coaching. Like we got on a call and I'm a coach teaching people how to get a job at a FANG company. We have that creator on the platform too. They are ex-FANG who teach people how to get jobs at Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google. The company makes millions of dollars a year and it's kind of a coaching business, right? So it's synchronous monetization, but they also augment that with asynchronous monetization, which is courses, and they make money while they sleep. And so that's kind of the different use cases of a very flexible platform like Kajabi's, and it helps you make money while you're asleep or while you're awake. It's kind of up to you about how to build a business.
So let's talk about a different dimension, which is that, again, these content creators, their skill and knowledge are going to vary all over the place. So some are going to be technical and they can figure out how to use some of these tools, whether it's yours wholly on Kajabi or outside. And for others, maybe they lack capabilities around lead gen or just building a fan base, whatever it is, or even creating content itself. How do you get involved in supporting some of these gaps that these content creators may have?
Yeah, we have a huge initiative around knowledge and training. So there's what we call Kajabi University, which is a place where you can go beginner, intermediate, advanced, and we'll walk you through how to build in Kajabi, but also how to think about building your business. We also do a lot of webinars, a lot of education, because to your point, there's how do I build a landing page? What's a funnel? Why do I need to get people's email addresses? There's a lot of education, particularly in the early stages of building a business, that not everybody comes in equally educated. So we spend a lot of our time very deliberately in the education process to make sure people understand what's going on. We have not just our own internal training, but we have some of our biggest heroes or our biggest customers come on and teach people how to market or how to build the best landing page or how to A/B test. So a lot of that is done internally, but a lot of it is also done with this person is such a success. Everybody kind of knows them. You're going to learn from the best. And Kajabi enables you to learn from the best because that person's on the platform too. So are you. We're a part of a community together. Let's learn from one another. And that's been in our DNA since day zero.
Now, a lot of content creators, let's say more legacy ones, are used to monetizing not just from, let's say, the platforms that they're on, let's say like YouTube or whatnot, but through effectively, product placements. So as part of their content, there's going to allocate a piece of that to promoting particular service or product. How does that fit in with Kajabi?
At the end of the day, so you think about brand deals. Everybody, that's one of the bigger ways to monetize within the broader creator economy is brand deals. I also think the last couple of years has taught people lessons around kind of the volatility around marketing budgets and what that can do to brand deals as well, which is when markets are great and things are up and to the right and people spending a lot of dollars, those brand deals you're kind of batting them away because there's so many coming at you. The flip is when you're dependent on brand deals and you don't have these recurring revenue streams or the diversity of income for your business. Those brand deals can be very precarious because they go away in an instant and all of a sudden you have no way to make income. And that's a little bit of why I always talk about the sophistication of creators is really improving over time because they've gone through a lot over the last 2 years and they're realizing the resiliency on product placements and brand deals can go the other direction too. It doesn't mean they won't come back. Like this, it's a cyclical dynamic, but what we always stress is like building recurring revenue streams, building direct relationship with your audiences, building ways for you to make money that you control, and plus do those brand deals too. That's the right way to build a business because you have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different ways of making money. We just put out a State of Creators report for 2024 in January, and it walks through the different ways the best creators who are making over $100,000 a year are making money, and they have like 6, 7 different income streams, right? So they're not one-trick ponies. They're not just brand deals. They're thinking about themselves as a portfolio and a business, and they want to make sure that if something goes up, that's great. But if something goes down, something else can replace that. And that's the right way to think of the creator economy, the most successful ones. They're just, again, entrepreneurs. They're not just creators, they're entrepreneurs. That's the difference between people who are on Kajabi than maybe other places where they're thinking about themselves as, okay, cool, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. All of those things are creating my very resilient revenue stream. So if one goes down, another one goes up, and I'm not stressed about the bills because I have a course that people are kind of taking X amount of times per month? Do I have a subscription for my community because people love the content I'm putting out there, and that creates recurring revenue for me? So it's a lot about diversity of revenue, and the sophistication, again, of these creators as time goes on.
Now, as we look forward, let's say the next 5 years out, how do you foresee the creator economy changing, and what are some of the additional advice that you would provide?
So it goes back to the same thing that we're really excited about in general. I think if you think about the foundational shifts that are happening around generative AI, what's going to end up happening is content in itself is going to become commoditized, right? You're going to be able to build things in an instant. We have a lot of that happening on Kajabi already. What's going to really end up mattering are the brands that are built around different audiences and your ability to stand out from the crowd and cultivate relationships with potential customers over time. And so we are really excited about that future, right? It's not being dependent on an ecosystem for your business. It's the ownership of that business, it's ownership of that audience. It's creating products that enable that kind of transaction to happen and those brands to be built. For us, that's the bet that we're most excited about. We are already in generative AI from a product capability perspective, but if we think it's more of an augmentation, in the sense of you're writing an email, let AI take a first draft at it, and then you edit it, right? But what that does is creates more velocity. And what that velocity should hopefully enable is, okay, I don't have to spend 3 hours writing an email. I get a draft in an instant, then I can edit it. It takes me 5 minutes. Now I have 2 hours and 55 minutes to interact with my community, which gives you more ideas in terms of things to build because that's your audience. And then it gives you more time to go build those things, which has this awesome feedback loop in terms of revenue generation. So that's kind of the future we continue to see, which we're really excited about. And we think the company's positioned well to do in that world.
I think one of the reasons that I'm excited about what you guys are doing is the fact that, in my lifetime, we've transitioned from lifers, people who used to work at the likes of, let's say, IBM, for instance, for 30, 40 years and retired there,
Yeah.
to, people that are all ages being forced to have to constantly move, constantly
Yeah.
change. And it's just part of the economy where downsizing is just a norm, and you're lucky to be at a firm for more than 2 to 5 years. Sometimes it's outside of your control. So having this additional revenue sources and having some control over your brand outside of, let's say, a professional occupation that you have is hypercritical because of the fact that there are so many things that's outside of your control, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We have a value internally around controlling our destiny. But it extends to like what we think is a broader ecosystem, which is, you're right. Like if you worked at IBM for 30 years, or look at what's happened in tech over the last 2 years in terms of layoffs, like just 1 week you're doing great at work, the next week your job is gone, right? That is a very tough spot for people to be in. So if we can be a part of a platform that again puts people in the driver's seat of their lives and enables them to build a business in the way that they want, it's an amazing calling. I'll give you one example. We have a man who worked in the Beverly Hills fire department, retired, was trying to figure out other ways to make income, and kind of built a business around helping people become firefighters, right? He's kind of in his 60s or 70s now. He drives his Harley from California to Maine, but he's got a mobile business fundamentally where he checks in to make sure that things continue to go well while he's living his best life. And so when we think about the future of work and the way people are going to be making a living, we think a lot of this is going to be the future of it, not just working at IBM for 30 years or even working at a startup for 5 or 6 years, right? To your point, that's just not how the world is. And we think being a part of that future, and enabling that kind of commerce, it's a fascinating place to be. It's also like very fulfilling. So we're really proud of our ability to play this role.
I think, even though I'm very much a public speaker in the field of deep tech, and I regularly talk about the value of AI for productivity and efficiency, you can't help not recognize the fact that while job displacement may occur slowly and gradually, there will be some job displacement, and some people are not going to be in a position to retrain. And to your point, with generative AI and other hyperscale types of new technologies, there are some people that's going to find themselves somewhat stuck. So this really provides a interesting avenue for people as we think about things that we humans can do better than, let's say, artificial intelligence or robotics, for instance. So with that, I have been joined by Ahad Khan, CEO of Kajabi. Thanks for joining today.
Thanks again. Really appreciate it.
If you've enjoyed this episode, take a moment to rate our show on any podcast platform that you listen to. Scroll down to the bottom and push 5 stars. It's that easy. And as always, thanks for listening.